Now we know different components in Salesforce. We understand that there are apps, and then there are objects, there are tabs, there are fields, records. There's so many components that we have talked about in our previous sessions, right? How to create apps, then we create objects, fields, tabs. Now the point is that the moment we are talking about so many different components, the next thing that we'll have to do is we need to go and define the access to these components. Who will have access to which all components, right? So one thing that we understand is everyone in the company does not need same level of access, right? So it's not that everyone will need same level of access and it's going to be everyone can view all the data, or everyone can view all the apps, and everyone can view all the objects, right? That is not the case, right? For example, if you have a sales team and if you have a sales app, the sales team should only see the sales app, or only the sales team should get to see the sales app. And then if you have an HR team and you have an HR app, so they should see HR app. Now there is no reason why your sales team should see HR app or why your HR team should see the sales app. Correct? So that is the logic. So that is the logic anywhere, or talk about any company, take an example of any company, any scenario. So you will have different components and you will have the users of those components who need to access those things, right? So one, this is important from the security point of view, that everyone does not get to see everything. You just want to keep your data a little confidential, secured. Secondly, that helps your end users as well in terms of keeping things simple for them. If the sales team guy sees all the apps, sales app, marketing app, HR app, he will get confused, right? So the kind of user interface he'll get to see, he will be totally confused. He will say that, oh, there are so many things, where do I go, and all that stuff, right? So we need to minimize the things for the end users also. So from the end user perspective, it's important. From the business perspective, it's important, right? Now that is what we are going to talk in today's session, that how this access and permissions are controlled in Salesforce. So there is a very basic concept which is used, okay, which is a profile. Okay. What is profile? Profile is collection of permissions. Profile means collection of permissions. So what is this collection of permissions? The profile contains a few permissions, okay, and then this profile is assigned to the user. Okay, so this profile is then assigned to users. All right. So for example, if you have sales users, then you will have a profile for the sales users, and that profile will be assigned to all the people who are a part of the sales team. Correct? So basically then what you are doing, you are creating a profile and you are assigning that profile to multiple users. Alright. So why don't we directly assign permissions to the users? So that we can save a lot of time. If I have 10 users who need same kind of permissions, 10 sales team members, sales team is of 10 people. Now instead of giving the access and permissions to each and one of them individually, if I create a profile and if I put all these permissions in that profile, it will be very easy for me to share those permissions, right? So one profile, all the permissions are put in that, and that profile is assigned to all those 10 people. Now next time if I have to edit something, I don't have to go to all 10 and edit that. I will simply edit it from the profile, right? So that is how it is. Clear? So that is the logic of the profile. So what all things are controlled in a profile, what all permissions are given on profile? Apps, okay, which all apps the user will get to see, that's a permission given on the profile. Object permissions are given on the profile. Field permissions are given on the profile. Tabs permission is given on the profile, okay. So what apps a user will get to see, that is defined in his profile. What objects a user will get to see, that also is that also depends on profile. So not just viewing the object, whether he can read, edit, create or delete data in that permission also is defined through the profile. Fine. So the profile contains whether the users of that profile will get to view the data, they can edit the data, they can create or delete. So sometimes you just want people to have read permission, right? And they should not be able to edit. So that is something which can be controlled. Sometimes you want them to be able to edit the data as well. Sometimes I want them to be able to create the data also. So depending on your requirement, right? Same thing goes with the field. So you have a read or edit permission on the field, okay, a view only or read edit permissions available on the profile. And then we have the tabs, okay. So in the tabs, when you're talking about the tabs, again the same permission, whether a user can view the tab or he can the tab is visible or not visible, basically that is the logic. Visible or not visible to the user, that depends on the profile that he has, right? So profile just consists of these permissions, okay. A profile of a user consists of the permissions, correct? And one profile can be assigned to multiple users, correct? So there is a one-to-many relationship between profile and the users. One profile can be assigned to multiple users. Got that thing clear? So again, profile is simply collection of permissions, okay. So it's a set of permissions put together. So it's a bundle of permissions, and that bundle of permission is assigned to the users. So one user can only have one profile. Got that thing? One user can only have one profile. So based on my profile, I will have the permissions on Salesforce. If my profile allows me to see data on accounts, I will be able to see that. If my profile does not allow me to view data on accounts, I would not be able to view that, right? So that is the simple logic. So this is how it is done anywhere in the world, not just for Salesforce, anywhere in the world, right? So like, for example, you have your mobile plans, right? So how does that work? A mobile plan is a generic one, right? So there are certain features in that plan, and you choose that plan. So the same plan is given to multiple people, right? Based on what plan you have taken, your call rates will be there, your how much internet you can browse or whatever, right? Same way as your maybe bit television plan, whatever the Digicom and all that. So when you take the plan, so what all channels you can view, that depends on the plan that you have taken. The same way what a user can do, that depends on what profile has been assigned to him and what all permissions have been put on that profile. Only good thing about this profile is the administrator will control what all permissions are to be put on a certain profile. Fine. So let's have a quick look on the profiles. Give me a minute. Let me just log in into Salesforce first. Suresh, can you please send me the password of your Salesforce account? I missed on the password. The username is saved. All right. So I think you guys can see my screen. So where do we find profiles? Profiles are available under setup, manage users, profiles. Fine. This is where you will find the list of profiles. Now these profiles that you find, most of them are standard profiles. Standard profiles means Salesforce provided, and you cannot do much of editing on them. You can do editing but not too much of it, right? Then there are 3 custom profiles as well. Custom profiles are the ones which you can edit. You can customize it as per your requirement. If you want, you can create more profiles. Okay. So first thing, if you can manage with the existing profiles, it's fine. If you think that, okay, fine, you cannot work with these profiles, you need something else, you can always go ahead and create a new profile. Okay. So when you create a new profile, you will have to just select one of these profiles to clone it from. Right. The moment you try to create a new profile, you just have to select one of the existing profiles so that the salesperson clone it from that existing profile, and then you can make all the changes. Right. So let us start with any profile. Let's say I'll take a standard user profile. So this is a Salesforce standard profile. The same way read-only profile, marketing user profile. These are all standard profiles. So default set of permissions which have been created by Salesforce. That is what these are, right? Now let's take one of these profiles and see, what all permissions are available and how can we edit the permissions, right? So if you look into this here, you can click on edit. You will get to see the apps settings, which all apps should be visible to this profile. So now we are talking about this profile users, right? So which all apps should be visible to that profile users, you can select. Which all tabs should be visible to them, that can be selected. The admin permissions, the admin level permissions, what all permissions they will have as an administrator. So interesting thing is, notice this is a standard profile, right? Let me mention it here. We have talked about standard profiles and we have also talked about custom profiles, right? Now look into this standard and custom profile. So for standard profiles, what do we find here? I told you that you cannot edit everything on a standard profile. You can edit certain things. So what do we see? We can edit the app settings, which means basically we can make certain apps visible, or we can just hide a few apps from the standard profile. We can change the tab settings also. We can make certain tabs visible, or if we want them to be hidden, we can do that part. But the moment you come to this admin permission side, you see everything is grayed out, so you don't have a scope of changing anything here. So admin permissions cannot be edited on the standard profile. You do not have a scope of editing these things on the standard profile. Scroll down. General user permission. The user permissions, right? Whether a user can activate a contact or not, whether he can activate an order or not, these kind of small things. These permissions are also restricted on the standard profiles. Means whatever is given, that is given. You cannot edit. Fine. Scroll down further. Object permissions. Okay, standard object and custom object permission. So object permission, as I told you, you have to specify what level of permission you want to allow to the profile users on a certain object. For example, accounts. Whether the users of this profile can only view the records, or can they create records as well in this object, or can they edit, can they delete as well. So this is all that permission which you have to define, right? So this profile user, now since they have read, create, edit, delete, access, all the access, they can do everything on account, right? But if you just had put read access, then they could not create, edit or delete the records in this object. Fine. So that is the logic here. But because it's a standard profile, all this is also grayed out. See, you cannot go and change it. Same thing happens for the custom object permissions also. You cannot go and change anything. Whatever has been given has been given. Correct? If you want to use a different profile, or if you want to edit these things, you have to work with a custom profile. Okay. So for example, I feel that all the things which I have here in marketing user profile are fine, just that I want these marketing users to have access to these objects as well, which is not here. Then what I'll do, I'll just need to clone it. So how will you clone this? Basically creating a new profile by cloning this. So you can come to this profile, click on clone, and you can give it a name, marketing user custom. I call it custom marketing user profile. Done. Scroll down. Now this is a custom profile, right? So when you click on edit and you scroll down, you see admin permissions you can edit, because this is a custom profile, this is not a standard profile. General user permissions you can edit. Standard object permissions you can edit. Custom object permissions you can edit. So everything is editable here. In custom profile you can do whatever you want. But for standard profile there are certain things which are allowed to be changed, certain things which are not allowed to be changed, right? Now let's say this profile user, you don't want them to see the HR manager app because he is a marketing user. You can remove it from here. You don't want him to see the warehouse app. It's already removed. You don't want him to see work.com. Just click on save. Got this thing? Now the profile that the current user, you created your Salesforce account with a user. What is the profile that user is having? Your current user. You can just go to the users, and in the list of users you can easily see which user is having which profile. Like now this Suresh, he has a system administrator profile. Now if I want to change something for Suresh, definitely I'll have to go and change it for his profile. So I'll come to this list, click on his profile, and I can go from here also. I always do not have to go from the list of profiles. So now whatever changes I make here, these are going to be visible to the system administrator profile. So see, I removed certain apps, so now only those apps are available here, like sales app. Alright. So other apps I have removed from this person's profile. So you cannot see that. Now, where is your HR manager and where is your warehouse and all? Not available because your profile has been edited. So again, want to bring back those things, go to that user, click on the profile and just go and click on edit and allow this marketing app, this warehouse, make sales, default one, click on save. Tell me, are we clear on this? If you have any questions or doubts, please let me know at this point of time. You're okay on this, right? Okay, that's great. So the next...
Jeet, hi, this is Ankit. I have a question.
Okay.
Jeet, you mentioned that a user can only have one profile, right? So what if, I mean, a manager or a general manager of a company wants to have look at the different, profiles. So how do we do that? I mean, some extra permissions are required to be given to that particular user.
No, I'm not very clear with your requirement. Tell me again.
So what I'm asking is, you mentioned that one user can only be assigned one particular profile. Now in a hierarchy or something, if a user is required to have extra permissions or some extra credentials to have a look at different profiles or something.
Why would he want to look
So
into
how do we
different
do that?
profile? Why would he want to look into profile? If he needs to look into profile, then he should come here and see the list of profiles, right? If he wants to see
So
his profile should have that permission. Let's say the manager wants to see accounts and contacts. His profile should have accounts and contacts both available, and his subordinate should just have contacts available. So that is the thing. Permission is defined on the profile, right? So definitely a manager's profile, if he wants extra access, his profile should be different.
no, but if there are two different managers and the requirement is completely different, or there are some extra permissions which are required to be given to one particular manager and not to the other manager. But they fall in the same very category of a profile. So how do we do that? For an example, if there are two general managers, right, and
I can
there's a
understand your
slight
question. I can understand your question, but that is something which you will gradually understand. So we have just started talking on profile. So what we need to do here is, see, we are discussing at a certain point, and we'll have to understand. See, we cannot go and change things for Salesforce, right? Second thing which comes into picture is a requirement situation, right? Before we start talking on the requirement part, we'll have to understand other aspects which are a part of access and permissions, right? Otherwise, what will happen? You will get confused, and we will confuse everyone here. I can understand that you are trying to get into the next step of it. You might have read it somewhere or something. So, but if we avoid these kind of things in the session, then it will be helpful, right? So let us understand profile is something which we cannot change. There is only one profile which can be given to a user, right? Now our understanding should be whatever we have to manage through profile. Now we will come to the next part. The question I can understand you are trying to ask from certain other topic, which we will definitely come into, right? So it will be good. I mean, it will be very helpful if we are sticking to what we are discussing rather than going to what we have still not discussed, right?
So will they
Ankit, actually, Ankit, that actually comes under role part here. So that's
Yeah,
not a
role
part
is
of
again
profile.
something which is not yet discussed or something. So let's keep that there, because profile
is there
can
a,
be given one only. Yep.
is there a concept called super user where a senior person can view all the users access permissions?
Okay. Now we are again too much of confusion. Now we are not done with the user. Now we are talking about super user. So let's not get into super user. Basically, what we are talking about is we are talking about exceptions, right? That some people who are exceptions and all. So that definitely we'll get into. But first thing, let us make sure that we understand profile really well. Why I'm saying this? Because most of the times then what will happen if we club two things together, we will get confused, right? What needs to be handled using profile and what needs to be handled using other things, we'll get confused. So for I think Vijaya was saying this. So super user also, let's not think about it. We will gradually look into that, fine. As of now, I just
Right.
understand one thing, that there is profile. Profile is collection of permissions. If someone needs a certain permission, I'll need to put those permissions in that profile, and everyone in the profile will have same access. No super user, no normal user, everyone is same.
So one more thing, Jit here. In standard profile also, according to what you just mentioned, we can delete and make some fields or visible, not visible. Custom profile is where we will just clone and we'll give all the required things. But even in standard profile, we can make some of them visible, not visible, or like that. Then we can make some changes.
Out of all these things, what we have listed here,
Uh-huh.
apps permission and tabs permission and fields permission. In profile, there are two more things which we just saw: admin permissions and general user permissions.
Oh, that.
So this is what we just saw in the profile.
Uh-huh.
Out of this, apps can be dealt in standard profile. I mean, you can edit this. Objects cannot be done. Fields can be edited. field permissions can be edited in standard profile, and tabs can be edited, nothing else.
Okay.
So this admin permission, that is what we saw, right? Even if you forget it, after this session, just simply go to any of the profile, open any of the profile, click on edit, and you will get to see this. Just take any profile and click on that profile. Click on edit. Admin permission. Grayed out, which means this is not editable on standard profile, right?
Oh,
General user permission, grayed out, not editable on standard profile. Standard object, custom object permissions, not editable. Fine, everyone is okay with profile?
yeah.
Now let's talk about a scenario, or basically, think about a situation where we have, let's say, 10 sales reps in the same team. Okay. So out of these 10 sales reps, I have a challenge that all these will have same profile. Everyone will have same profile, right? Everyone has sales profile. Now I have a problem here. The problem is, let's say everyone gets to see accounts. Alright, when everyone gets to see accounts, which means if my sales reps are Ankit, Suresh and Rohit and Vijaya, okay, let's say 4 of you are there, sales team. Everyone has access to view, edit, create, delete accounts. Okay. Now this guy Rohit, he every day he goes and makes some changes on Ankit's accounts, or he deletes Ankit's accounts. That is what Ankit is complaining about, that Rohit comes every day and he deletes my accounts. The accounts that I'm talking to, he changes the phone numbers. He does not want basically Ankit to meet the target, and that is the reason why he does it. Don't you think this is a problem? This will become a challenge, right? Because there is an owner of the record. If others also have access to change the record, then how can you make owner responsible for something? Right? So this is going to be a problem. We all have access to accounts. We are all accessing the account. But the problem is when the other person is coming and editing my account. He goes and he makes changes on the phone number. Or he goes and he deletes that account altogether. Now what this guy has to do then? Correct? So we need a solution for this now. This is where we are going to talk about the record access. So far we have talked about apps, objects, tabs, fields. Now we are going to talk about the record access. Okay. So I hope everyone is clear with this concept, that if I am the owner, sometimes it becomes a, a necessity. If I am the owner of a record, I should only see it or I should only edit it. So there can be two situations, that I see that record, no one else sees that record, what I own. Or the second requirement can be, let others view the data, but they should not be able to edit because I am the owner. Make sense? This will be handled using sharing settings. What is this? Sharing settings. This thing will be managed using sharing settings. What is the sharing setting thing? Sharing setting is pretty simple. What is sharing setting? It's basically a logic or a rule that you define on the sharing of data. Whether the owner will share data with everyone or will not share data with everyone, or will just share a view access on the data, that is sharing settings. Okay. So in sharing setting there are two things. One is organization wide default. The other is a sharing rule. So sharing rule will come a little later. First of all, let's understand organization wide default. Organization wide default, as the name suggests, default rule for the organization. You just have to say that the data for a certain object is going to be public or private. That's it. You don't have to go and say that my data should be visible to this guy and should not be visible to that guy. No, you just have to say whether the data on a certain object, which can be account, which can be opportunity, which can be contact, which can be cases. The administrator just has to define whether the data on a given object will be public or private. If it is public, everyone will see it. If it is private, only the owner will see it, right? Now, because I am an administrator and I am struggling with this sales team, someone else going and editing someone's data or deleting someone's data, I can just make accounts as private. The moment I say account is private, what happens? Each one of you just get to see your data. So if Ankit is dealing with 100 accounts and Suresh has 120 accounts, and if Rohit has 300 accounts, and if Vijaya has some 90 accounts, okay, the moment I make this account as private on the OWD, Ankit will only get to see 100 accounts in the account table. He will not get to see Suresh's accounts. But if I make it public, then what happens? Each one of you get to see all the data. So 220 and 310 and 610, so it's kind of a 610 records. Each one of you will get to see. Fine. So this is in some cases this is optional, depending on the the nature of the data that you have, like for accounts, contacts, opportunities. Depending on your requirement, this is optional. For some cases, it will become mandatory. Like I think we were discussing designing this HR application, HR manager. In that, the performance or the goals of an employee. Now, my goals, my colleague should not see, that kind of thing, or my performance, or what rating I have got, or what learnings I have enrolled for, that my colleague should not see. So, some cases you have to make it that way. You have to restrict, or you have to make it private. So the concept is clear. Now let's see how do we do this thing. This is again very simple thing. So access to the data or the records is controlled from setup, then security controls, sharing settings. Fine. Sharing settings. In this sharing settings, first thing is what? Organization wide defaults. This is what we are talking about. You have a list of all the objects here, and you have the option of making them private or public. So these are the objects from our this default work.com app. The coaching, feedback question, set, feedback request, goal, macro, profile, performance cycle. I told you there is one HR kind of an app by default design in Salesforce. This is the one. These are the apps in that. These are all the ones that you have created, but this is the one that Salesforce has created by default, which has this from coaching till the performance cycle. Okay. So almost similar on the lines we have also designed. All right. So that's a different thing altogether. So come back to the this thing, Salesforce thing. So OWD, click on edit. You can change the OWD for any of the object. You can make things public. You can make things private, the way you want. Got it? So now we understand how do we control access to different components like applications, objects, tabs, and how do we control permissions to the data. If I have access to a certain object, do I get to see all the data in that object, or I just get to see some of the data in that object, the ones that I own? That depends on whether your data in that particular object, the OWD for that object is private or public. Got it? So now we have resolved two challenges. One, everyone does not get to see all the components. Everyone does not have access to all the apps. Everyone does not get to see all the objects and data within that. That we have understood and that we have resolved. The second is, if there are multiple people who see the same object, do they see all the data in that object or not? Okay. So there is a simple logic. If the data is made public, then everyone gets to see everyone's data. If the data is made private, then no one gets to see others' data. Everyone just gets to see their own data, right? So this is the second logic. First logic, permissions, profiles. Second logic is OWD. Got it? So we have got the second logic also. Now there is a third challenge that we have, which is pretty much on lines with what Ankit was talking about. The third logic is, now you have made the data private. Okay, which means everyone will just get to see their data. But after you have made this data private, the manager wants to access subordinates data. Got it? So I told you that if the data is made private on OWD, which means it is completely made private, only the owner will get to see it. Which means if I own 100 accounts, if I have 100 accounts and accounts are made private, it simply means that I will only see that data. No one in the company will get to see those accounts. But my manager is interested in knowing, and my manager is, let's say, Sneha. Now Sneha is interested in knowing what am I doing with these 100 accounts. She wants to have some control, no? That okay, whether he is actually talking to them, he has those 100 accounts, he has deleted all the accounts, what is he doing with that, right? This is basically related to our OWD, and this concept is solved here. This challenge that you have, that will be resolved using this column. Grant access using hierarchies. Okay. So if this is checked, it means the manager will have access to the subordinates data. If you check it off, then the manager will also not have access to the subordinate data. Okay. So like if attendance, if you check this, then what happens? Your manager will get to see your attendance. If you check it off, then your manager will not get to see your attendance. Got it? So that manager control over subordinates data, you have to define it here, whether the manager can see the subordinates data or not. Fine. So this is one aspect. This is just one aspect. There will be, there will be other aspects, more aspects into this. But I think we are clear on this, right? So then what will happen? My manager will get to see my data because we are giving the access through hierarchies. It's not that if Sneha is manager, she will start getting, she'll see everyone's data. Let's say Sneha is my manager and Narayan is Rohit's manager, right? Then what will happen? Because we have given access through hierarchies, then Narayan will get to see Rohit's data. He will not have access to my data, and my manager will have access to my data. So based on the hierarchy, the way it has been defined. Alright. So that's the solution to the second challenge. But while we are talking about this thing, do you see one interesting thing here, that these are all grayed out, which means you do not have an option of changing this? Do you see this? All these objects are grayed out. Only these are the ones which you can edit. All these are by default checked, and you do not have an option of unchecking it. And these are all, what is the difference between these objects and these objects?
Standard objects and customized objects.
Right. So these are all standard objects, and these are all custom objects. So what do we understand from here, looking at this? We understand that for standard objects, your manager will always have, by default, he will have permission to your data for standard objects. Like whatever standard objects have been used by Salesforce, for those standard objects, there is no way you can hide your data from manager. Your manager will always have access, and you cannot restrict it. Fine. So if you are using leads, accounts, contacts, opportunities, manager will always get to see that. It's a separate story that you do not have a hierarchy defined in your company. There is no manager defined. So that's a separate story. But if you have a hierarchy, your manager will definitely get to see your data. Got it? That's one. Second is, in case you have a requirement of a certain object where you don't even want the manager to see that data, then you should be using a custom object. Fine. So for anything like, for example, HR manager app. HR manager app is one thing where there is a lot of confidential data. Let's say your dependents and your salary details. You don't want even your manager to see. Then the administrator should put these kind of things in the custom objects, because Salesforce standard objects do not have that kind of a scope. Correct? Alright. So that is also done. We have understood that part also. Now there is one more challenge that I have. So we are going step by step. So we talked about manager having access, manager not having access, everything discussed. Now the next thing is, out of these people, let's say my accounts are private, or let's say my opportunities are private. Okay. Now I have one more requirement. Opportunities are private, which means everyone gets to see their own opportunity. Now Suresh and Praveen, both of them work in the same team. Suresh has a few opportunities. Let's say he has 150 opportunities and Praveen has some 200 opportunities, and data is private. So Praveen does not have access to Suresh's accounts and all, and they are, none of them is a manager of the other. So they are just at the same level or independent, completely independent. Okay. So no managerial connection here. Now Praveen is going on a leave for 15 days. He will be not in office for 15 days. Okay. We want Suresh to take care of his opportunities for these 15 days. Correct? That is another challenge. Suresh needs to see Praveen's opportunities for 15 days. I'm not going to transfer those to Praveen because those are not Praveen's opportunities. I cannot transfer them. I cannot give access to, I cannot make it public, because if I make it public, others will also start getting, the view of others' data. So that also I don't want. I just want Suresh to see Praveen's data as an exception to this rule. So this rule is there, private, but just I want to define a small exception that, okay, let Suresh view Praveen's data. A temporary setup. Once he comes back, I would revoke that particular permission. Okay. How do we do that? That is what will be done using sharing rule. So if you scroll down a little further here, below this organization by default, under sharing setting, it's all under sharing setting, setup, sharing setting. I told you under sharing setting we have two things, right? OWD is the first thing, which we have already discussed. Sharing rule is the second thing. So if your opportunities are private or any object, you have to go and define a sharing rule to define exceptions to that. Now this is going to be an exception to the sharing, this is going to be an exception to the OWD, right? So sharing rule is used for defining exceptions to OWD. Got this thing? Clear on this? So sharing rule is just used for defining exceptions to the OWD. So if your OWD is private and you want to give access to one user to the data of the other person, and that other person, this guy is not the manager also. If he's manager and he needs access, that managerial access concept if you're talking about, then you should be talking about this thing, the grant access using hierarchies. But he is not even manager and he needs permission. Okay. So just go to opportunity sharing rule, click on new and define the sharing rule. So this sharing rule that you define has a few things that need to be defined. So you just have to give a label and a name to the rule. Let's say call it rule 1, whatever name you want to put. Okay. Which data you want to share, based on record owner or based on criteria. So you can share the data based on some criteria also, like share all the opportunities from a particular account or share all the accounts from a particular country. So you can put your filter here, or you can share it based on the record owner, that share all the data which is owned by a certain person with a certain other person, right? Let's say you say that, okay, fine, I want to share all the opportunities where the amount is, this amount is opportunity, no? Fine. Let's say all the opportunities where the stage is equals to prospecting, needs analysis, and perception analysis. Okay. So only these opportunities need to be shared, and share with whom. So you have options of sharing it with a particular role, or share it with the VP of marketing, or share it with a certain role. So every anyone who has this role will get to see all these opportunities. Okay. Or you just want to let's say you want VP of marketing to see all the opportunities which are at these stages, right? So that can be done. Now no matter who is the owner of these opportunities, any opportunity which is at these stages will be visible to this VP of marketing. The same way you could have given it through based on a certain individual also. Let's say VP of North America sales, the data of this guy should be visible to VP of international sales. Now this thing can be done, right? And you have that option of giving a read only or read write access. Got it? But important thing which you need to note here, so it's usually used for defining exceptions, that's fine. But important thing is this line. Just read this line and then I will talk about it. Read it twice, 2 times, and let me know what did you understand. The third line. Anyone who can explain us why is that written and what does it mean? Who will tell me what does that mean?
Jeet, this is Ankit.
Yeah, tell me.
Jeet, I believe this is further to the grant access using hierarchies that was mentioned in OWD.
No, not further to that. It is related to the OWD basically. Not using grant, no, not related to the grant access, but specifically to OWD. Read it and try to understand. So this is used for giving access. The sharing rule cannot be used for restricting access. This is a very important thing. Alright, which means that if your OWD is private, you can come to sharing rules and give some extra access as exceptions. So exception can be in terms of giving access. You cannot say an exception in terms of restricting access, which means if the data is made private, okay, then only this situation arises that Suresh is not able to see Praveen's data, right? But if the data is public and Suresh comes and says that my say opportunities are private, but I just don't want Praveen to see my data, that will not happen. You cannot restrict access from 1 or 2 users. You can give additional access to 1 or 2 users. Got that thing? So it's not going to work the other way around. You cannot say that okay, this is public and in public this guy should not see. That will not happen. If it is public, everyone will see it. Got it? So the sharing rule only comes into picture if the OWD for that object is set to private. If it is set to public, then it's open. Everyone will get to see it. Anyone who has a permission to see the data in that object will get to see that. And there is no way you can just go and say that okay, only one of these users, for everyone else let it be public, but one user should not see. That discrimination will not be done. Okay, why I used word discrimination, because you will be able to retain this in mind for a longer time, right? So Salesforce will not allow you to do some unfair thing to one user that this guy will not see. Everyone will see. Something which is public will remain public. Everyone will get to see it. There is no sharing rule which can restrict one user from seeing the data. But if overall it's private, then you have that sharing rule to give access to one special person, depending on your requirement, right? Clear? So that is what this means, and this is something very important. You will need this a lot. You will need to keep this thing a lot in mind. while you are dealing with these things, data access and all. All right.
Jeet, so what does that mean is that you need, I mean, this sharing rule is coming, comes into effect for the entire profile, not for a single user, right?
Now see, this sharing settings, what we are talking about from here, this has got nothing to do with the profile. Okay. It is not under any profile. See, there is no connection of a profile with the sharing setting. Sharing setting is general, which means let's say there is a sales profile and there are 5 people who are in the sales profile and they have access to accounts. Fine. And then there is marketing profile and there are, let's say, 4 people in this and they also have access to accounts. So profile wise, both the profiles allow access to accounts, right? Now the sharing setting which I am defining is independent to account, independent to the profile. It has got nothing to do with the profile. It just has to do a restriction on the people who can view accounts. So people from sales profile or marketing profile, it is just going to restrict, make the data public or private for people who can see the accounts through their profile. And there is an HR profile which anyhow does not have access. Let's say there are 3 people, they do not anyhow no access to accounts. If they do not have access to accounts, so for them anyhow it doesn't matter whether you make the data public or private, they do not get to see accounts anyhow, right? That is the thing. Got it? So sharing setting is not related to the profile as such. Profile is different, sharing setting is different. Okay. Sharing setting will only be useful for people who have access to that object. For people who do not even have access to that object, for them it doesn't matter. Got it? So that is the thing. Everyone clear on this? Let me know if there are any other questions on this. So there are a few more concepts on this access and permissions which we are going to discuss in our next session. But I want you to understand these few concepts very clearly, and it would be good if you guys go back and listen to maybe the recording once again and have your concepts clear on this. So it's basically very simple concept. One is profile, which allows permissions on the objects, apps, tabs. So what all tabs a user will see, what all apps the user will see, what all objects the user will see. That depends on his profile. But whether he will see all the data in that object or not, that depends on the sharing setting that has been defined by the administrator. So if the administrator has made things public, so basically if I try to explain it in a simpler way, whether you can get into an office, you all go to office, right? So whether you can go to office or you can enter the office building or not, that depends on whether you are an employee or not, whether you have that permission to enter the office premises or not. Then you basically enter the office premises and then you enter your office building. For that again there is some sort of permission which you need. You either should have an ID card or something or whatever. Then whether you can get into that particular floor where your office is, that is one thing. So you enter the floor or not. Again you need some sort of permission there. Swipe your card or something. Now then it drills down to your desk or maybe your laptop that you use. Okay. Now whether you can sit only on your desk or you can go and sit on others' desk also, or can you just use your laptop or can you use other person's laptop also, that is the sharing setting, right? Can you sit on your desk only or can you share the desk with others? The company says that okay, you will just go and sit on desk number 34, or they are free that okay fine, whoever wants they can go and sit with their friends also for some time and work. So that is how it is. So profile has got to do more with whether a person gets into an app or not, whether a person gets into an object or not. Once he has got into an object, whether he gets to see his data or he gets to see everyone's data, that is what sharing setting is doing, right? And then I talked about a few different things here, whether the manager needs access to his data or not, whether the other person who is not even a manager needs access or not. Fine. So we are going to continue our discussion on this access and permissions in our next session, and our next session is going to be day after tomorrow. Tomorrow is basically New Year's Eve, so I will not be available. Day after tomorrow we will have our next session, which will be the same time.
Can we have it on second Jeet instead of first?
So what is the problem with the first? It's morning.
Because,
Acha, you will sleep late or something?
yeah.
So how about others? I am kind of okay with that, but I just need to check with others also. How about others?